Hi, I'm John Ellard of Ellard Security Systems, suppliers and installers of fire and security equipment based within the southwest region of the UK. The purpose of the video today is to be able to demonstrate our top-end, high-quality, wire-free intruder alarm system called the Daitem Enova. The Daitem Enova, which we have an example of it displayed in front of the camera, is made up here of a main control unit, a keypad, couple of fobs, which are examples of many others as well, but these are two examples, a tag as well here for arming and disarming the system. Now, if I talk about the control unit first, this is what they call a 20 zone example. A 20 zone means up to 20 detection devices. There are 40 detection device version and an 80 as well, which looks physically exactly the same. It's just capacity of what the devices can actually carry in detection. If I was to take this cover off, you can see here it has a keypad underneath, and engineers use that primarily as a means of programming the system up. But basically a customer can actually use that as well, also to be able to use the system in arming and disarming it. If I put that lid back on, most customers quite frankly tend to have that lid on, and they tend to use keypads or fobs or tags to be able to use the system normally to arm and disarm it. The arming and disarming process can be done either through the keypad or through the fobs or tag to the keypad. Now, if I lift up this keypad, you can see it's a really beautiful design, very plush. It's got very easy to use functions on the front. If I was to turn it around, you see it's completely wireless. If I was to unclip the cover, which is a little bit jiggery pokery, but I'll just do it. If I take this lid off here, you can see totally removable. You might say, yes, well, so what? Well, this here, you can put on different colours, black, white, cream. You can actually put on wood grain even, and slate in colour and things like that. I think the white's quite nice, which is what comes as standard anyway. Quite a clean look, but in its use, very simple. You've got the function keys here, and you have obviously the keypad itself. If I was wanting to arm the system using this keypad, I have one of two ways of doing it. I can use the code simply by pressing the code in. They are green for go, if you like. The light comes up and I can basically select what I want to do. So if I wanted to arm the system at this point, I would press on, off, parts set 1, parts set 2. For instance, parts set 1, parts set 2 could be a nighttime set, or it could be arming and disarming outbuildings. If I wasn't quick enough, as you can see, the light goes out and nothing happens. So at this point, because that green light goes out, I would need to press the code again, and I press on to arm the system. As you can see, the panel has reacted. That is the countdown from the control unit, as you would get from a normal alarm system. The green light's gone out on the keypad. Now at this point I can disarm the system again, like so, and press off. Simple as that. Very easy. Now I could, if I wanted to, use a tag facility. Now look what happens. I'm not going to press the code first. If I was to press on without the code, it's telling me where to show the tag. Fantastic. Simple as that. That system is now armed. If I was to want to switch the system off, I'd press off, show that tag again, and it's off. Simple as that. How easy is that? Obviously I could part set the system in a normal fashion as well, using the tag facility. There's something even more easier than that. You've got fobs, 2 button. Now you can clearly see it says on and off. Well, you can't get much more simple than that. On is on, off is off. If I was to press on, I can press off. Very straightforward. You can see here, there's another example of the fob, which is a 4 button, which again, you got your on off buttons. You can have your part sets on there, for instance. There is another version which is an 8 button, which isn't actually 8 buttons, but it's 4 buttons with a switch on the side. So it's the first set of 4 and a second set of 4, where you can actually have more functions. And believe it or not, you can actually program these fobs directly to switch units, which can be linked up to automatic gates and garage doors and things like that. So another real wow factor there. I think from the point of view of the system's flexibility, is great, because let's say, for instance, you have an automatic gate and you have an automatic garage door, and you've got an alarm system with a fob. How many fobs do you like to be carrying? Is that going to drive you crazy? Well, some people it might. So from that point of view, you could put them all on one fob. So fantastic. You know, this would replace them all. So you could turn up, open your gate, drive in, unset your alarm, open your garage door, drive in, job done. Thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. Now, the other added advantage of the system is that the passive infrareds, not only are they very, very good looking, like that, so they blend in very, very nicely. But the advantage is that this particular detector, or the shape of it, you can have 3 types of different versions, if you like, of this very detector. So you could have a pet tolerant detector, which this one is, because I can tell there's a little dog impressed in the lens. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but it's there. You have a standard passive infrared and you have a car door detector version, all of which sit in the same case. So if you would have a detector installed and then you have a change of seat, or you gained a pet, we could simply just change the front of the detector over without taking the back off the wall, which is fantastic. It's a good design. This houses a battery as well in the back. The pet tolerant detector works en masse, and what I mean by that is the size of the object. For instance, if it's a cat at floor level, or even on top of a table, it will tolerate things like that. Obviously, if you have something the size of a Jack Russell, it will be able to cope with that. But if you've got a Great Dane in the house, it won't ignore that. So it's about the size of the object and the height of the object as well. Sighting of these detectors are quite important to ensure their correct operation. That's obviously down to your installer to ensure that's the case. If I was to put that detector down over here, I did mention batteries. Batteries in the system are literally in everything. The main control unit is battery operated, the keypad, the fobs, the detectors, the siren up on the wall, the external beams if you have them, and then any other facility are all battery operated. Now you might say that's a lot of batteries and I don't want to be changing them every year. Well, you don't need to worry about that, because changing them every year is definitely not what you have to do. These systems have battery lives from 3 to 5 years. Now you might say, well, that's nice, but what does 3 to 5 years mean? Is it just a case of luck of the draw? Well, when it comes to batteries, luck of the draw does come into it. If you are unlucky and you get a faulty battery, then obviously that's dealt with at the time, and the system does have the ability of giving you an early warning of a low battery. But normally the system would work up to 5 years on its battery if the system is being armed and disarmed in a standard way, say once or twice a day. So it's about how often you arm and disarm the system and how often it activates, really. So if you're arming and disarming the system, say 5 times a day every day, then it's going to reduce the battery life a lot quicker. So in my experience, we've been using these systems now for many, many years from Daitem and its predecessors, and we've found the batteries do last the term. They're very, very good. If you are unlucky to get 1 or 2 batteries running low before their time, what will happen is that the system will identify that to you as a fault, and it will say battery low, and it will name the device. As you can see, when I was arming it, the system has the ability of talking to you, and this is how this system deals with everything. It tells you everything in plain English, which is fantastic because it doesn't leave you guessing. With that, every device can be labelled. So for instance, detectors. So if you've got detectors on the front door and the hall and the lounge and so on, I can program the main control unit to give you not only the fact that it's detector 1 or detector 2, which most systems have the ability of doing, but this one will give you a vocal description, so it will actually say the lounge, the dining room. If there's been an activation, it will actually tell you what type of activation. So if there's for instance, a intruder, it will say intruder. If it's a fault on the system, when you go to arm, it will say fault, name the device with its time and the date, and it will actually say what that fault actually is. So the beauty of it is that, again, you're not left guessing. It's a system which, quite frankly, keeps you well informed. And I don't know many systems that tend to do that very well. In fact, some of them are clever from a technical point of view, but are appalling to use on layman's terms. On this system, it's technically clever, but it is being designed around the client on ease of use and quite frankly, to make it as user-friendly as they possibly can. Now, the bit I'd like to show you, if I was to turn up the camera here, these two beams are external beams. I'll turn up a little bit more so you can see the siren up on the wall there. What's fantastic about these beams, if I was to arm the system right now, like so. These external beams are connected to the system, but they're not connected to the system, to the internal part of the system. They're connected to the external part of the system. What I mean by that is, if I was to trigger those beams, it will give the siren have the ability of not only triggering a siren on a very, very brief note to ward off like a deterrent to whoever's in the grounds outside. It also has the ability of, if it's programmed for it, to give off a vocal warning. So it will actually say, for instance, if it's programmed, you know, you've entered a protected area, please leave immediately, for instance. But there's an example as well where this siren can actually bark and growl at you. Now I'm going to show you that because I really do think there's a wow factor there. If I was to turn this beam, just as if it's lost sight of the other device, like somebody's walked in front of it. There's an example. As you heard there, you hear the growling, the barking, and also you hear a tone over the main control unit. Now that tone is internal. That's to indicate to you, if you're lying in bed, someone has walked through the beams outside. Now, what's fantastic about that is that the external beams are very, very stable, designed to deal with all the wildlife outside, and if they're sighted correctly, quite frankly, they'll be as stable as you would want them to be. They won't be false alarming. Very, very stable. In the case of the reaction, as you see, you've got the barking outside, so it's indicating to the intruder you have triggered something and you are not welcome. So you've got two things going on there. If I was to switch it off.
Off on the 24/2/2015 at 19:35. Deterrence detector 3 group 2.
Now, for instance, what it's done is identify which detectors trigger, what time or what date and for what reason. Brilliant. Very, very, very easy. I've just simply switched that off with a fob and incredibly easy to use. Obviously, if that had been an internal detector, the main siren would be going off right now, but I wouldn't put you through that at this stage, as obviously we're in close proximity to the camera. It's quite loud. But as you can see, incredible system, can be fitted in all types of properties, from houses, commercial buildings, outbuildings, yards, driveways, farmyards. Very, very popular in the farm area, agricultural area, and obviously all sorts of situations like stables and so on. Brilliant. Very, very flexible. Now, if you've got an interest, obviously here we are. If I give you our details, if I took you back down, give us a call. Ellard Security Systems, as you can see the number, 01823 332976. You can see this in practice as a demonstration in your own home if you wish. You can email us on ellardsecurity@hotmail.co.uk, or you can obviously look on our website, ellardsecurity.co.uk. Give us all. Thank you for listening.